Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
What up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of the Man Cave Podcast, brought to you by our good friends from Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. Also, don't forget to check out the Swag Cave, brought to you by Resonance Branding Company, the official swag provider for the podcast and the radio show. Just a quicker episode of the Man Cave Podcast today. We're going to talk a little football, and I want to do a Packers preseason roster projection heading into the final game this weekend, and we got a joint practice coming up here too. But I want to do a roster projection with a little twist, with I think a couple of position groups / some players who are still competing for some jobs. And the reason I'm doing it now is because I honestly feel like it maybe hasn't changed that much since week one. So that's what I want to talk about. Let's get right at it. Packers getting set for a joint practice with the Baltimore Ravens on Thursday. The final preseason game Saturday at Lambeau Field. We don't know yet at this point in time whether any starters will play, if any, how many. I think a lot's going to depend on Thursday's joint practice. But I think, for the most part, we've got a pretty set roster. I know a lot of people, a lot of writers are going with their roster projections, and some do it, before the preseason starts and after every game, kind of like an updated list and such. And I wasn't going to do this until after Saturday's game, but I was looking at this, and I still feel like I don't know how much has changed from the first preseason game, right before the first preseason game, to where we're at now. And I honestly feel like a lot of the questions maybe we had heading into that first preseason game against Cleveland in terms of jobs up for grabs or roster spots up for grabs, I honestly feel like we're maybe in that same position right now. Now, whether that's a good thing or bad thing, it could be both. Why I think it could be a good thing is that I don't think there was a whole lot of jobs up for grabs to begin with, especially starters. But the bad part is, nobody's maybe really separated themselves from, depth purposes and that sort of stuff. So, without further ado, here's my 53-man roster projection. Okay. Quarterbacks, it's easy at the top, Jordan Love. Now the question is going to be, do they keep 3 or do they keep 2? Obviously a lot of talk has been about the backup quarterback competition between Sean Clifford and Michael Pratt over there. I'm going to go, since both those guys haven't really, especially after game 2, I'm going to go with Sean Clifford. I think Pratt you can get back on the practice squad. I know there's a lot of talk about whether they're going to bring in a veteran and such. I don't see it, to be honest with you. I don't see it happening. So I think they start the initial 53-man roster. I'm going to go with 2 quarterbacks, and they're going to be able to get Pratt back on the practice squad and have their 3. Running backs, I'm going to go with 4 here, but here's one of the areas to watch. So part of this projection, there's a few positions in here, a few players. I'm going to put notes on who to watch or what to watch. Jacobs and A.J. Dillon are locks. Josh Jacobs and A.J. Dillon are locks. The question is Marshawn Lloyd with that hamstring injury. Is it bad enough to where he's going to miss a few weeks, and then you have to factor, do you put him on the injured reserve? Remember the new rule this year, teams can designate 2 players at the final cutdown as IR to return guys, no longer requiring them, remember, to be on the roster first, and then you had to put them on IR. That whole thing. So that's a question that has to be answered in the next few days here. If it's not that bad, I think they carry him on the roster, but to add a little protection, though, too, I think Emmanuel Wilson is on here. I know a lot of roster protections out there don't have the Packers keeping him, but I feel like, okay, Lloyd is a rookie, and there was still some talk about him, got to get him some work. There's maybe some fumble issues, get a little bit more experience in the passing game. I think you got to protect yourself, and I think they keep 4 running backs. I think they keep Emmanuel Wilson on here. Receivers, 4 locks in my opinion. Easy 4 locks. Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks. I do think Grant DuBois has locked up a spot. I think, Matt LaFleur talked about his blocking, loves a receiver who blocks, right? He absolutely loves a receiver who blocks. We saw what he was able to do in the passing game in the first game. I think Grant is going to make the team. That 6th spot, I think they keep 6, is between Bo Melton, Malik Heath, and Toure. Toure, I think, is a long shot at this point in time. If I had to pick right now, I think Bo Melton has a slight lead over Malik Heath. And I think part of that, too, Malik Heath is a great downfield blocker, is a good blocker as a wide receiver. But the fact that Grant has kind of been showing that as well, I think kind of maybe puts Malik Heath at number 2 here. So I think Bo Melton, in considering what he did towards the end of the season last year, I think bodes well for him, even though he's struggled a little bit, especially in that first preseason game. I think Bo Melton holds the edge here, but this is something to watch in this final contest coming up on Saturday. Tight ends are easy for me. It's Luke Musgrave, it's Tucker Kraft, it's Ben Sims, and it's Tyler Davis. I think that's your 4. Tyler Davis, a little bit more for special teams over there too. But I think those are your 4. Offensive linemen. Okay, another position that maybe we're looking at the back end of the depth there. But we know the top 6 for sure. Rasheed Walker, Elton Jenkins, Josh Myers, Sean Ryan, Zach Tom, Jordan Morgan. Those are your top 6. Jacob Monk makes the team. There's 7. I think Travis Glover makes it. He's a rookie. I think he gets on there as the 8th offensive lineman. Then the question becomes, do they keep 9? Do they keep 10? And it goes to, kind of that tackle, that backup tackle position, that swing tackle position. Could it be Kadeem Telford, Andre Dillard, Luke Tenuta, who they really liked last year, and they kept IR. Caleb Jones, a massive guy over there. I think they keep 9. I think Kadeem Telford is right now option number 1, especially with Andre Dillard a little bit banged up. I know they like Luke Tenuta. He could be a sneaky pick into that equation. But if I had to make a kind of like the wide receivers, kind of power rank them here a little bit, I'd go Telford. And the fact that, okay, if there is an injury, let's say, you do have a little bit of flexibility with some of these guys. Maybe a Rasheed Walker can go over the right tackle, even though I don't know if you want to move your left tackle too much. But, Elton Jenkins has experience playing tackle. That's an option. Obviously, Jordan Morgan played tackle in college. That's an option. So I think at this point in time, if there was an injury, you're going to see some shuffling around from the starters and not necessarily kind of a next man up approach. Don't know if that's the best option, but I think that's kind of where we're at right now at this point in time. So I think they keep 9. I think Kadeem is the leader right now in terms of that 9th spot. Defensive tackle is pretty simple for me. Defensive tackle and defensive ends are pretty simple for me. We'll start off with defensive tackles. Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, TJ Slayton, Carl Brooks, Colby Wood. I think those are your 5 right now. Defensive ends, I'm going to go Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, Lucas Van Ness, Kiki Inagbare, Kingsley over there, and then Brenton Cox Jr. I think he gets that 5th spot over there. Linebackers, inside linebackers. Again, I think it's pretty cut and dry here. It's Quay Walker, it's Edrin Cooper, it's Isaiah McDuffie, it's Eric Wilson, it's Tyron Hopper. I think those are your 5. Cut and dry. Corners, again, here we go with kind of the last position group here where maybe there's something to watch, but I don't think it's to the level of the offensive line or even maybe the back end of that last wide receiver spot. Jair, Stokes, Keyshawn, Carrington Valentine, and then it's Kalen King and Corey Ballentine, but I think it's going to be Kalen King. In the past, I would have liked to. I'd like 6 corners. Okay, I would like 6 corners on your roster, but I think the safeties come into play here, and I'll get to that in a second. So I think Kalen King holds the slight edge over Corey if they keep 5. If they keep just 5 corners, I think Kalen King is going to get that edge over Corey. If they keep 6 corners, then Corey's on here. But the reason I only have them playing or keeping 5 right now is the versatility that some of these safeties bring, and we've talked about it at length. We've talked about the versatility that Javon Bullard and Evan Williams bring. Heck, even Anthony Johnson Jr. is a converted corner into safety. He was a converted corner into safety when he was at Iowa State. Safeties is Xavier McKinney, it's Javon Bullard, it's Evan Williams, it's Anthony Johnson Jr., and it's Oladapo, the rookie. Kind of a prototypical strong safety mold over there. Probably you're going to see him more involved in special teams. But the fact that you probably want to try to figure out how to get Williams, McKinney's going to be on the field every time, but how you want to get Bullard and Williams on the field at the same time with Xavier McKinney out there, well, maybe that's a nickel roll. Maybe that's a slot roll over there. Those guys can do that. So that's why I only have 5 corners, but 5 safeties over there. Special teams, I mean, punter's easy as Daniel Whalen. Your long snapper is Matt Orzek. And I do think Anders Carlson wins the kicking job. It's not a runaway. I think he's the leader in the clubhouse right now. The only thing that would change this is if he gets a lot of opportunities on Saturday or even at the joint practice and just blows up in the next few days here, in these next couple of practices. If he just stinks and absolutely blows up, then I think maybe they are going to go look at the waiver wire. I think they look outside the organization, or maybe, I don't know, does Hall get kind of sneak in there a little bit? But I think right now it's Anders' job to lose. Greg Joseph is struggling here a little bit. I think he was kind of, I don't want to say a long shot. I know a lot of people are saying long shot. But I think Anders still held an edge over Joseph when he first came in because, let's face it, he's a draft pick. Now I know, does Goody keep draft picks or prioritize draft picks? I don't think he's to the level of Ted Thompson. I think we've seen enough examples of him moving on from draft picks earlier than what Ted Thompson did if they're not working out. J.K. Scott being one of them. You know, that was the first one since we're talking about kickers and special teams. You know, Josh Jackson. I mean, he's moved on from guys from draft picks after a couple years if they haven't panned out. It's not like a Ted. So I think, but he's not like maybe a Ron Wolf where, you know, instant. Maybe a little bit in between there. But heading into this final stretch here, you got the joint practice. I think it's going to be big for these guys, and then obviously Saturday's game. I'm looking at wide receivers, that 6th and final spot, that if they keep 9 offensive linemen, that 9th spot over there. If they decide, if it's 5 corners, I still think it's Kalen King, but could Corey push it? Could he make it difficult? And then you look at the running back. I think mostly the running back position is they got to answer the question about Lloyd's hamstring. I mean, if he's like cleared and he's ready to go, then maybe they only keep 3. I feel like they're going to keep 4, though. I feel like they're going to keep 4. That's just me. I just, there's something about the A.J. Dillon role that I think they're keeping under wraps here a little bit that's going to let them keep 4. So that's kind of what I'm watching for heading into Thursday's joint practice and Saturday's preseason game. Final preseason game. All right, that's going to be it for this episode of the Man Cave Podcast. Just a quick short one for you here on this episode. So again, big thanks for tuning in. As always, I know sometimes we've got shorter episodes, sometimes we got a little bit longer ones. All that good stuff. But a big thanks for tuning in as always. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the Man Cave Podcast wherever you listen to your podcast, plus on YouTube. All right, it's on YouTube over there too. So, and while you're there, if you could, subscribe to the YouTube channel. But if you listen on a podcasting app, give us 5-star rating and a positive review so others can find the podcast. Until next time, I'm Dan Casper, and I'll talk to you in the next episode of the Man Cave Podcast.